So we've done a little research, right? And everybody gets an entry music. So I'm hoping this works for you. Can you hear that?
I can. What the hell is that?
That's your homeboy, right?
That's, what is that from? I don't know that. That sounds old.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
That's Human League.
Human League? That before my time, mate.
But he's from your hometown.
From Leicester?
Yeah.
Is he? No
Come
idea.
on. You know what? I'm going to get the Queen on the phone right now. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good, thank you. You?
I'm good. See if I can turn you up a little bit. All right, good. First, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
Greatly appreciate it. How's your day?
Yeah, all good, good. I've been having quite, during all this kerfuffle that's been going on, I've been having shorter days, and today I've had a few more orders come in, so I've done a bit of an earlier start today. So
that's good. You're getting work during the lockdown.
Yeah, it's when it all locked down, I had about 2 or 3 weeks work in hand, so I could just sort of carry on working on my own. You know, it's not a problem. I can just come in, shut my door, and that's I'm pretty well isolated anyway. And so I just worked through. Immediately after, no inquiries for a week. Just nothing happened. The phone didn't ring. No emails. No nothing. And then I started getting some calls from people doing DIY work, so doing stuff around their own homes and stuff like that. So I've got a few jobs like that. That kept me going for another couple of weeks. And then
can you turn your I can hear you, but not like loud enough.
Oh, okay. Perhaps have to try changing how I've got you on here then. Hang on.
I think that's a little better.
I had you rested on the microphone might have been hidden. Can you hear that a bit better?
Yep, much better.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you, my brother. What's up, Klaus?
So where was I? So yeah, so I've managed to keep going all the way through, just ticking along a little bit, keeping a bit of money coming in. But yeah, this last week things have eased a little bit. They've eased the lockdown a little bit, rightly or wrongly, and they're
we'll find out in a while.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions that we're going to start with.
Okay.
Before we get into it. All right. So, do you have an overused phrase or word?
I go through phases of you pick up sayings around and about, don't you? And I guess you pick them up and you use them, and then you realise that you're saying things too often, But I try to avoid that sort of thing.
Okay, all right, good.
I say things, I don't know. Yeah. People
we'll see as it comes up, right?
Yeah.
What is your least favorite thing to do?
What, in the workshop?
Period. In life. These are life questions, not shop questions.
Okay. Ooh, least favorite thing to do.
What's up, Mark? What's up, David Stein? What's up, Steel and Grain?
Least favorite thing to do. I don't know. I try to stick to things that I like.
That's the next question.
Yeah.
What is your most favorite thing to do?
Most favorite thing. I suppose it's just time with my family, and I enjoy being here, to be honest, at the workshop as well. So I have a pretty good balance between work and home life. So it's a nice split between the two.
What's up, Keith? What is the one thing you would change about your spouse or significant other?
I knew you were going to ask me this. I heard you else. Mates don't ask people questions like that.
Listen, you know, it's so funny, right? Because everyone says that. And there's two things you can do with this, right? You can fumble, or you can score.
Yeah. It's like, get myself in trouble. I think I've been with my wife for like, I think last year we passed the point where we've been with each other longer than we hadn't. We've been with her since we were like 19. So we know each other so well, and we've got a really good.
Okay, let me ask you. Did you say 19 because 18 is illegal?
No, it was 8. We were 19. It was.
Okay. All right. So, what is it that makes you tick? What motivates you? What gets your blood going? What in a good way?
Again, well, out of work, you mean?
Yes. This is us getting to know you.
Okay. All right.
He's like, I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose the same as most people my age. I mean, when you got kids, a lot of what you do, you can't do so much anymore. I used to play a lot of sport.
Soccer?
No, football's never been my thing. Cricket's my thing. Another thing you.
Of course.
But yeah, no, I used to play a lot of cricket, a lot of badminton, both a couple of times a week, you know, so I was out a fair bit with mates playing sport, you know. But I picked up a couple of injuries, as you do, and then kids came along, running my own business, and then the cricket team folded. It was all the guys were getting cropped, you know, so they... So the cricket team folded, so I stopped playing cricket, and then my lad came as well. So don't get out quite as much as I used to. But the boys are getting a bit older now. So
how old are they?
9 and 5.
Okay, so in a couple of years you can start playing cricket.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm just getting old though.
What irks you the most?
Oh, well, the thing is, I'm 40 next week, so I'm turning into a right grumpy old man. My wife would tell you I am getting really grumpy. So annoy me is probably pages and pages.
So it's a long list.
It is a long list. Yeah. The most annoying thing recently was I tried to take a parcel to the post office. Okay. And these days, post offices over here there used to be a shop on their own, and they closed them all down to cut costs. So the post offices are all in other shops. So there's like a counter in another shop. And so you go into this shop, and the shop's open all day, you know, 8 in the morning until 8 at night kind of thing. But the post office is only open 10 till 3 or something. And there's a sign up saying, no, you know, you can only do certain things at 10 till 3 o'clock. And I'm not businessman of the year, but if your shop's open, why the hell is your post office counter not open, you know? And it just really riled me up, and it's silly to annoy me. But yeah, there's plenty.
All right. What sound makes you happiest?
Sound?
Yeah, sound.
You know what sound I like, and this is a weird one. When you walk on snow and it crunches, you know, that crunchy sound you get.
Fresh snow.
Yeah. I'm not fond of snowing particularly, but I like the sound of the snow.
When the snow, just walk on it, come back inside, let it melt.
Yeah, I work. Yeah.
What sound bothers you the most?
Ooh, people using a lathe who don't know how to use one. You know,
yeah, that could be bad. That could be bad. And you know, from a beginner for many years, you know the sound when it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
But you only know that when you know when it is working.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
What is your favorite curse word?
Ooh,
I like them all. I use I'm fairly well edited for things like this, you know, like media almost. But but no, I quite like a swear word. Yeah. When I found out that you know, when you hurt yourself, there's a scientific fact that if you swear, it releases some endorphins or something, and helps your body reduce the pain. You can go for it. Swear. But yeah, yeah, all sorts. I don't mind an F-bomb, you know.
All right. All right, you got it. What profession other than your own would you like to try?
I don't know. Woodworking is like in my blood. My family have been woodworkers for generations, and I have thought about what would I do if I couldn't do this, or you know. And I really don't know whether you could go down like a creative thing. My thing is like to make things, make good for me, or do I go down the money aisle? Because you know, I do what I like, you know, make enough money to keep going, like, but I'm never going to be rich, so I could angle off and go down, go for the money, you know. But I think I'd always need to make something, whether it might be. Well, I like jewelry, so I don't wear jewelry myself, but I like jewelry and like.
So you would like to be a jeweler?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I've got the skills or the eyesight, or my fingers are a bit big for little things like that. But I like to see, you know, a well-made little ring or something, you know, that kind of thing. So maybe something like that would be interesting. I don't know. All
right, cool. All right, so the last question is, what would you like on your tombstone?
Something nice, I suppose.
Not grumpy old man?
Yeah, likely, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get into your journey.
Okay.
We're gonna go from high school to where you are now and all the things that happen in between. But your sound is coming in and out.
Okay. I could try and.
No, I think keep talking. I think that may be good.
Yeah, a little bit. You're pretty clear here. I've just upgraded my Wi-Fi, so it should be fairly good as far as that goes.
You're good. You're great now. You're
Okay.
great now. All right. So you're gonna take us from high school, right, and to college or whatever you is, and whatever it was, to where you are now, the different stops you made along work, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So I guess I was always going to join the family business in a way. My dad had got his own business, which my grandfather had started.
Which is?
Well, it was. It's all moved on now. But my grandfather was a cabinet maker. And during the war, well, after the war, there was no money around for high-end cabinet work. So he sort of invented this type of wooden curtain track that goes around bay windows and stuff like that. And basically making those fed my family for the last 50 odd years, you know. My dad's business. So when I left school at 16, I joined the family business. And originally I was just going to...
Wait, at 16, do you have the traditional high school like America or no?
I think the system's a bit different. These days, I think you have to stay in some sort of education until you're 18 here. But technically, we have primary school and then secondary, which I think is your high school, so like 11 to 16. And there's a set of exams at the end when you're 16, and then you go into some sort of further education. And the school I was at, they were trying to get everyone to go to university. It was all right. I enjoyed it for the social side, but I was school. So,
right.
I think I'd always decided from an early age I was going to work for family business kind of thing, and it was made clear to me that I didn't have to. You know, it's my choice. I wasn't being forced into it. So if I wanted to go off to university and do something else, you know, that would have been fine. But I think I always wanted to, really. So I joined the family business, and I did a bit of everything, but I settled on the woodwork, and it really clicked. Because it was curtain tracks. We used to have customers who were like designers like that, so I used to make them. Through the business, I went to college and trained as a joiner. So I got my it's a vocational qualification, on college. So I got a qualification as well, and then I worked for Dad for 12 years, something like that. And he got to the point, basically, that he wanted to retire, and I could either take the family business or have got my own thing, really. But in the meantime, I'd started messing around because I'm jumping ahead of myself here, because I'd started making bits and bobs for customers. I used to spend my dinner hour. We used to have quite a long dinner hour. So I had plenty of time to myself to sort of mess around, make. Everyone would go home at lunchtime. It was a bit an old-fashioned business thing. We used to close the shop 12:15, and we'd have an hour and a half just closed. So I'd eat sandwiches and then just mess with the factory for an hour and a half, and play around. And I made a few bits, and I did a bit of carving for a while. My grandpa left me some carving tools, and I did a bit of carving. I enjoyed that, but with carving, I don't know if you've ever done any, but it takes so long to actually make anything that it sort of puts you off a bit, you know. Yes. Maybe I could get a lathe and turn some knobs or legs or something and make a bit of furniture with some turning. But as you turn, it's quite addictive, isn't it? It sort of draws you in. And
it does.
So I then spent all my dinner hours turning bits and stuff. And once my house was full of wooden things, and everyone I knew was writing with a wooden pen and had a wooden bowl of wooden fruit and, wooden things they didn't necessarily want or need. I thought, I'd better do something with this stuff. So I put a table in my dad's showroom, and I sold a few bits off that table to customers.
How old were you then?
So I started doing that, I think I was about 22, 23, something like that. Just, making stuff and putting it on this table and just selling. I sold a few bottles and a few pens and, usual sort of stuff, quite a few apples and things. And that's sort of where I learned a lot of the basics in that time. I was doing an hour and a half plus some evenings as well every day. And when you do that, you get good in a sort of shorter space of time.
Yes.
A lot of people, when they're turning, they'll do a couple of hours at the weekend, and then they won't do anything until the next weekend. And you almost forgot.
5 years later.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I, after that, it got, once I'd sold a few bits, I thought I like messing around with my computer. So I did a website, and I made myself a little website. And, I sold.
Okay, wait a second. How old were you when you put a website up?
So, I think like most people, I probably did it before I was really ready, because it was I'd only been turning about 3 years probably. So I wasn't as good as I thought I was, but that's like most people, I reckon, isn't it? You know what I mean? You think, well, yeah, I'm amazing. There we go. So yeah, I was probably 3 years in, something like that. About 2006 we're at now. I did a website, and I sold a few bits, and I picked up a couple of regular customers. And it's regular customers you need when you're doing any business, and it just started to grow from there, really. And so it got to the point where Dad wanted to retire, and I could either take on the business myself or have a go at my own thing. And it was a big decision because, obviously my grandpa had started the business, and you don't just throw away 50 years of your family's business.
It's a lot of pressure.
So we kind of went for it. Dad sold the business, and I went to work for the new owners. I did 4 days a week for them, did a day plus even a week for myself. At that point, the new owner business, I can't have someone running a business side essentially, you know, his factory. So so at that point, I got this place. I started renting this place. But I had 4 days' wages come sort of supporting what built it up. And over a couple of years, I sort of got myself a 2-year plan to increase the work here and wind down what I was doing. What was interesting, I guess, is seeing a different company's approach to running a business, because all I'd ever known was how Dad did things.
Yep.
They were a little bit more hard-nosed and a little bit more going for the big bucks kind of thing. Where Dad, I think in the years ago, Dad was done by having a couple of big businesses who owed him a lot of money, who went under. And he, from there, principle would always have lots of little companies or lots of little customers, where if one goes under, you're only losing a small amount rather than, you know.
Right. You're not relying on one customer.
Yeah. Whereas this company, they were actually a shop fitting firm. And they tended to do big shop fits for one company. But it was, I think, probably important for me as well to see how another business ran and how to approach it from another angle, you know. I certainly learned a few things that you should. But yeah,
the good with the bad.
What's that?
Yeah, so you take the good with the bad.
Exactly. Yeah. But it did teach me that sometimes Dad was a bit too soft with people, and he needed to be a little bit firmer, you know. But you know, so you've got to learn from what comes along. I mean, you know, so.
Yeah, because he never worked in anyone else's shop either, probably.
Exactly. No, he worked for his dad, and you know, he just, yeah, you just like I say, you learn as you go along, don't you? You know. So the good thing about working sort of part time for myself and part time for them was that when the recession hit in 2008, 2009, that sort of period, it hit them quite hard. Most of their guys went down to a 3-day week. Well, at that point, I was already doing a 3-day week for them and doing 2 days myself. So it saw me through that. What could have been, if I'd have gone on my own and then would have hit a crash like that, that would have screwed me right over. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, we may not be talking now.
Exactly. Yeah. So the fact that saw me through worked really, really well for me. And then 2010, it was my birthday present to myself in 2010, in June. I finished with them and I came full time here, and I've basically been here ever since.
So when's your birthday?
June 2nd.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, next week. Yeah,
it's close.
Yeah.
So when you went on your own, did you have the business, or were you taking a chance?
Well, I was building it up. I had a couple of regular customers who were giving me regular work. So I had that, and then I was getting more work, and it was getting to the point where actually I didn't really have time to be doing 2 days for them. You know, I needed to.
Right.
So, yeah, it worked really, really well for me. And I've a couple of times I've got down to not having a lot of work, but most of the time, the last 10 years, I've had work in, and I've been fairly busy, you know, so I've been fortunate. And I feel like a lot of that is because I'm so open to doing any kind of work. If someone comes to me and says, "Can you make this?" my answer is yes. And then I work out how to do it, you know. One of the first jobs that really saw me from being a hobby turner to a professional was making walking canes, walking sticks. And it was for a local company who do all gothic stuff. So it's all black and silver and skulls and, you know, devil and Dracula and, you know, all stuff like that. Not really my taste, but their stuff was really high quality. So the guy rang me and he said, "Can you make walking canes?" And I went, "Yeah."
Why not? Right.
Didn't know I couldn't, you know. He said, "Look, we pay this much at the minute. Can you do it for that?" Yeah. And basically I was making for
Okay, wait a second. Let me ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
When he gave you the price for the walking cane,
Mm-hmm.
was that price more or less than you would have charged him? Because at this time you didn't really know. So was he above or below your number?
I mean, at that time, I was really green. I didn't really know,
So he was offering you more than you would have charged.
I mean, it seemed reasonable at the time. Having never made one, I thought, well, that sounds all right. And if that's what another professional turner's charging, then that must be what it, must be what it is.
Right.
And so I had a go, and the first one took me like an hour and a half. And it was like, well, they're not paying me an hour and a half's money, And luckily, by the time I was at that point,
you're going in and out.
Say again. So, but by the time I got to that point, I had a couple of friends.
I can't hear you at all. You froze.
Nothing's changed. I haven't done anything. Move it a bit again. Is that any better?
I can't hear you.
Okay. You've frozen. I'll keep talking. Maybe I'll come back in.
Can't hear you.
No? Hello? Hello?
Can't hear you.
No? Okay. That must be a connection thing, I guess.
All right, I got you now.
Oh, you got me now? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me change how I've got you. I'll see if I can put you on some bits of wood or something and prop it up a bit. We'll try it a bit differently. Let's try and lean it against there. How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right now? Okay, we'll try that. So yeah, I was really green at the time. I was the last and a half, and luckily by then I did know a few other professional turners who had a lot of experience than I did. So I was able to speak to them and say, look, I've got to make these things. I've tried it. Everything I'm doing is just taking forever. I'm getting a lot of chatter. They're quite slender turning, so I was getting a lot of chatter, a lot of vibration, and the ones I was making were fine. The quality was good, but it was just taking forever. And so by talking through a few things with people who'd done that kind of thing, it gave me a few pointers. And then I developed over time a way of doing it. By the end, I was making these things for years. By the end, I had it down to under 10. So it was
10 minutes.
Slick operation, really. I was making these a batch of 10 every other week, something like that. So it was giving me really nice, regular income. And another sort of business lesson I learned was I was just chatting to my brother on it, and he said, you put your prices up at all? Because you've been making these for years. And I said, no, not really. He says, these companies expect you to put your price up every year. Today? You've been, yeah, you donkey. Come on. So
inflation.
I sent an email to him. I said, look, I've been making up the same price for so many years. Prices have increased. I'm going to have to put the price up. And I didn't go mad. I'm not greedy. I just put them up a few pounds. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. No problem. We do a new brochure in February. If you can let us know, like in January, it's fine. I was like, oh, that was easy. So, a year or so, I just put them up another pound, or and not taking the piss, but just making it a bit better for myself, and they were happy with it. And I say it was a really good contract to have, and it really saw me through getting started in the business, really.
Do you still make canes?
No, it's about 3 years since I've made them. I've got one I could show you. Let me see if I can grab one.
Yeah.
I think I've got one over here. Here we go. So, bit dusty. I ain't been in that bag for a while. This one.
Wow.
This one was a bit of a special that they asked me to make. So they make the top. You see that? It's really nice. This is like cast resin and stuff. It was a special one. And the top unscrewed, and that was drilled. So it drilled down to about here somewhere. They put a long glass vial in there with a spring. So when you took the top off, this glass vial jumped up, and you could keep your shot of whiskey or whatever in there.
What was this made for James Bond?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. The old sword sticks were banned years ago, but yeah, you can keep your booze in there. That's but yeah, that sort of thing. That one was a bit chunkier because it had to have the glass in. The rest were quite.
Yeah, they needed room for the alcohol.
That's it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But the nice thing about that job as well, it became a good demo for me because I started doing a few demos, and I thought I needed something that I knew how to make inside out, and perhaps was a bit different. And so walking sticks was ideal, you know, because no one was demonstrating walking sticks, and I don't think anyone still doesn't demonstrate walking sticks, you know. But there's a lot of quite interesting techniques involved in making them. So I made it into a demo. And actually, most of the times I've been over to America and done demos, I still do my walking stick demo occasionally, you know. So it's really done me well, really, making these walking sticks.
Okay, so let me ask you: is that company still in business?
Yeah. I think they just stopped doing the walking sticks. I think they I don't know whether all the goths had got walking sticks now, or because I must have made. I think I totted it up. I reckon I made about 8 or 10,000 in the years that I was doing it. You know?
How many?
8 or 10,000, I reckon. You make 10 a fortnight for 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
You get to that number, don't you? You know, and it sounds hideous, but actually, just making a little batch like that, it was, you know, by the time they were sprayed, I set up a little spray booth. I've got everything sorted out, and it was sort of a day or so a week with the spraying. I deliver them myself. They paid the bills on time. You know, it all worked really well for me. You know.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So let's get into your travels. When I first met you, it was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I took your I don't know, you were given I don't know what it was. But I saw you there, right?
Okay.
And I'm watching you. That was 4 or 5 years ago?
2016, I think it was. So yeah.
Yeah.
Years ago, yeah.
So I'm watching you, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then I'm on Instagram, and I'm like, oh crap, there he is. So and then I saw you again last year.
Yeah.
In Saratoga.
Yeah.
How often do you travel to teach?
Not that often. Having a young family at home is not really fair for me to be going away too often. So my wife sort of tolerates one foreign trip a year. So the first one, I do a lot of demos here. I do nearly 30 all up and down.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So I get around. So I get a lot of practice at it. I suppose the nice thing about over here, as opposed to in America, the clubs are so far apart. From where I am, I'm Leicester, which is right in the middle of the country. A 2-hour drive, I can be in London or Manchester, or you know, I can be at a lot of big cities and a lot of places in between. And the density of wood turning clubs over here is you know, a lot more. You know, so those 30 following year, there'll be a different 30. You know, so often I'm on a 2-year cycle doing demos. So you know, there's a lot of clubs over here.
Wow.
It's as far as travel goes, the first one was Phoenix. I did Phoenix in 2014, I think, and that was a big deal for me. That was my first time. You know, well, I mean, I did Ireland. No, that's a lie. I did Ireland the year before. In Ireland, it might have been early that year, but that was quite a big gig. But obviously, Ireland is still relatively close.
Yes.
It's only about a 40-minute flight. You know, it's for you guys, it's the next. You know, it's barely the next state. You know what I mean? Everything is very much like, apart from they talk a bit funny, but everything's very much like home. You know, I get all of the Irish people. So it's very much like, you know, and they're a great bunch over there. So America was a new thing, you know, 8-hour flight. Well, Phoenix was like 10-hour flight, so it's a good old way over to Phoenix. a whole new experience. And actually, I think I was probably pleasantly surprised that it was all very familiar still.
Right.
You know, the demographic's still pretty similar in America. You know, it's still the same sort of guys, and they still have the same sort of trouble, and the conversations are still quite familiar. You know, it's just a funny angle. You know,
Right.
accent. You know. So.
So what? Okay, speaking of that, I worked in the hotel for 20 years at Four Seasons, and one of my managers was a British guy, and I don't cuss, but I didn't understand any of the slang that you all would use.
Yeah.
And he walked by, and he said bollocks, and
Bollocks.
I'm like, I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea what that meant. So 2 days later, a guy I work with, he laughed at me. He goes, "Did you know what he said to that guy?" I was completely clueless. And then he told me, and I just bust into laughter. Because
it's quite
so
a
casual.
one. Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry?
quite versatile. It's quite a versatile
Yes.
swear word. Someone sent me a meme the other day with all of its uses, which is quite useful. But I'll perhaps send it over to you.
Yeah, I thought the language, the slang language was absolutely funny, because I didn't. There was a couple other things that he would say that he would never explain it to me. He would just say it in passing, and I had to figure it out later. And I guess he did that because he didn't want me to know what he was saying, or whether or not he was insulting me.
Yeah.
So here we are. You've traveled, and what is when the lockdown first happened? What were you thinking with your wife and kids?
So I think we were just a bit. It was all a bit. Well, it's a lot, isn't it? You know what I mean? One of my mates texted me. He said you hear about these things in, you know, the big things in history, but you never really expect to live through one, you know. And he was dead right. And I remember sitting there watching the Prime Minister saying, "You've got to stay at home now," and then it takes a while to compute.
Wait. He said that after he got sick.
I lost track of how with the order of things, but I think it was before he got.
I'm making fun of him, and this is not a political place, so we're not going to do. Say it again.
There's plenty to make fun of.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do that, because the same on this side that you can make fun too. So I'm not going to be political. But go ahead. So
Yeah, best
the
to
Prime
avoid
Minister
politics.
says, "Don't leave the house." Yes.
It then takes a while to compute exactly what that means. And actually, for us, it didn't affect us as much as it would a lot of people. Obviously, the boys' school was closed, so they were at home. But actually, what we realised was that the main message he said was, if you can't stay at home to work, then you can still go to work. You can travel to shops to go to work, or go to hospital. I think those are like the 3 reasons you can travel.
Right.
Well,
Emergency.
I can't, I can't take that home. So I've got to travel to work. So basically, I carried on coming to work because, like I said earlier, I'm work on my own here. I'm fairly well isolated anyway. I can shut the door. No one really bothers. So, and I had that bit of time, like I said, about 3 weeks work in hand. So it didn't affect us that much. And as having young kids, we don't go out a great deal. We're not the sort of fun. We don't. A lot of our friends have got people who look after the kids, and like grandparents or whatever. We've not got really anyone to look after our kids, so we have to do it ourselves. My wife looks after the kids anyway. So we don't, we go out loads. So it didn't affect us that straight away. I suppose over time, a lot of it, I suppose, is the sort of psychological side of things, isn't it? Kind of the sort of worry and the fear and what have you. But Yeah, it's not for us. I think my wife hit the nail on the head. She said for everyone who's gone through this will have a different take on it, and they'll have lived a different, it will have been different for everyone. From people who lost their jobs, people who were furloughed, people, who can carry on or whatever, But it's not, honestly, it's not been that bad for me, really. So I've been lucky, I guess.
Yeah, for us, it got really bad. They shut it down. But immediately when it happened, I was talking to a tree cutter buddy of mine who did municipal jobs. And the first thing he did was apply to be essential. And this was early on, 2 months ago. And when he did it, I just happened to call him to buy some wood.
Right.
And he would just goes, oh, I applied for essential. They sent it back to me 24 hours. And it said I'm essential. And I'm like, who, where? So I did the same thing.
Right.
And I got it back the next day. This
Wow.
is before it went crazy. This is before they shut us down.
Yeah.
And I followed him because he's a smart guy. He's a good businessman. And I'm figuring he knows what he's doing. So I did the same thing. And it worked out. And we would always travel with a mask. There were very few people on the road. There still are. More coming back. But there were very few people on the road. We'd come to work. We'd work. 2 weeks into it, I get a phone call. And it's from the Attorney General. And the Attorney General is the highest lawyer in the state. It's like, I'm calling, she didn't call, but someone from office called. And the Department of Labor, we hear that you're working? I was like, yeah. I applied for essential. Then I had to explain to them what I did. Then I had to apply for it again.
Okay.
3 weeks later, I get another call.
Yeah.
What's the status? Are you still working? I was like, yeah. I explained to them, said, there's two guys in the shop. We wear a mask all day. We're closed to the public. And we are abiding by the governor's guidelines.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So now things are, I think, starting to soften up a little bit, but it was pretty scary. And in my shop in Yonkers, in Westchester, which is a little suburb that's connected to Manhattan, we're connected to the Bronx.
Right.
It was the city that had the most cases in the entire county.
Yeah.
So that was scary. We come to work, get out the car, go in, lock the door, don't open the door, and we work.
Yeah.
And now things are getting a little better, we hope. So during your turning, who would you say is your oldest friend?
In turning sense or in wood turning?
Yeah, the turning sense.
Probably. There's a guy who's been almost my mentor, really. A chap called Gary Rance, he's a very well-known turner. He's a production turner down. He's based a bit closer to London than me, but he's been a really great sort of source of information. And I'll do something in a day he's watched, and I'll get a phone call the next day. He'll say, "What are you doing? What are you doing that for?" And then there was one occasion. Occasionally, I'll get a catch in a demo, and the next day I got a phone call. He says, "I heard that fucking catch."
and this is until this day.
Oh yeah, he's still a full-time production turner. Yeah, he's a good guy, Gary is. Yeah, anyone over here would know Gary Rance. Yeah, but he's been a good friend, and he's, like I say, a good mentor to you as well.
And how long have you known him?
I don't know. I suppose his was the first demo I ever saw when I joined a wood turning club. So I guess probably about 18 years or something. Probably now, time flies, doesn't it? I reckon I went to my first demo around 2003, 2004, something like that. And I said, this sort of local club was doing a full day demo. So I went, it was him. But the amount I learned just from that demo,
Hey, Murray,
you know, yeah.
So what do you do when someone comes to you and is seeking mentorship?
I mean, I'm always happy. You've seen on my Instagram, I'm always happy to answer questions and share knowledge. And, you know, I think it's the way it is these days. I think the days of, you know, I know how to do it and I'm not going to tell anyone is a long gone. You know, things used to be like that. And it's not like that now. And I think that's got to be for the better, you know. So I used to do kind of one-to-one lessons here, but some of them were great. I think a lot of it is the people, isn't it? When you're doing one-to-one, some guys come and they're great. It's really easy to talk to them. They listen. They're very receptive. They go away at the end having learned a lot and had a really great. It's a little bit more difficult to know quite so well, and you try your best to talk to them and keep the banter going, but it can be a bit hard work with some people, you know. And it got to the point where I was busy with my demos and busy with my production work, and people wanted to come for lessons as well. And I was just it was too much, and something I had to give, and I decided to stop the lessons because it was the bit I enjoyed least. So now I just do production work, and I really enjoy it. I'm able to, really just like I've seen in my demos. I just talk about what I'm doing, explain what I'm doing and why, and people seem to really enjoy. You know, I'm always happy to ask questions. You know, so it seems to work well. But I don't do.
Yeah, it does. I'm
not a mentor per se, but
yeah, I think kind of. I watch your videos a lot, and I watch Steve the Woodturner a lot.
Yeah.
And Steve the Woodturner you both make this look so easy. And
well,
it only gets that easy after you put a lot of time in.
Yeah. Well, Steve is another level. He uses that skew. I think he bends the rules of physics. You know, the way he uses it, it shouldn't really be possible. But he taught by his granddad to turn. I don't know him well, but I know, you know, I do know. And he tells a story of how he's you know, he was literally working with his granddad in the factory, and they had a lathe next to each other, and they basically used to race to make the stuff. And you're doing stuff like that to turn fast, don't you? You know, and apparently his granddad was quite strict as well, so he'd look at work, and if it weren't up to scratch, he'd just chill in, you know. So again, it's possible to get good quickly, doesn't it? But no, Steve is another level. He's awesome. Lovely guy.
So, can we take a tour of your shop?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah. Let's have a look. See what we can do. It's not very big. It's not. It doesn't take long to do a tour of my workshop, unfortunately, and it's not that tidy. So I'll apply. Now I think this one should flip you around. There we go. So I'm standing at the door of the workshop, basically. So we've got big bandsaw here. See that? We've got miter saw and a compressor, and there's basically piles of wood everywhere, which is, I guess, fairly standard. Planer thicknesser. I've got a staircase here that goes up to kind of storage. I've got a finishing area with a spray booth, and I've got an office. We've got a bit of a timber stack here, all sorts of stuff on there. They're sort of my shorter bits, and then lean up against my other door, I've got some longer bits there. Like I say, wood everywhere. I've got a little kind of trolley there with the tools that I use most. Those ones on the wall are ones I use, you know, from time to time, or that, you know, you need occasionally. We've got the old Wadkin lathe there.
How long have you had that walking?
About 8 years, something like that.
What did you use before?
I had a Jet 1442, 144. Yeah, 1442. The one with the lever and is it a Reeves drive? Do you call it? And it was rated as being industrial, but in the time I had it, and again, it took me from being a keen, enthusiastic amateur to being a full-time professional. I wore that laid out. It was knackered by the time I had finished with it, and I knew I needed something a bit more up for the job. And I looked around, and the trouble with that jet lathe, the size of it, it had really good kind of capacity, and the only way to get to improve that capacity was to spend some serious money on a new lathe. So I started looking at second hand, and the old Wadkin lathes have been around for years and years, and I knew a lot of production turners used them. It was just a case of finding one, and I managed to find one that was just perfect. There's not many of this model around. This is an RS8, which is sort of the middle size, and it's an 8-speed one as well. So basically, you've got this speed lever here. So there's 4 positions. You see that? There's 4 positions, and it's got a 2-speed motor. So there's a little thing there that you click to change speed. So not many. I don't think I've ever seen another one like this. So it's a fairly rare one, but it just came up, and it was on eBay. And the first time I saw it, I thought, "Oh, I don't see many of them. I'd like that." And then the sale ended, and then it came back on again. And I said to my missus, it's talking to me. It's saying, it's come back on. And I don't know. She said, "Oh, I don't know if we can afford it, and what do you think?" And the thing ended again, and I was like, "Oh, I wish I'd have had it." And it came back on again, third time, and I thought, "Well, this is it. It's just screaming out to me, isn't it?" So I had a word with my old man, and he lent me a bit of money to buy it, but it wasn't that expensive compared to what you'd need for a new modern lathe.
Yes,
you get a lot of your money.
Yeah, I have a bunch of old lathes.
Yeah. So that's been going strong since I had it. I stuck new bearings in the headstock here, new belt, and it's lovely.
Did you have to take it apart to get it in your shop?
No. So the doors, these are double doors, and there's a loading bay out there. I'm not sure you'll see.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
this
easy.
So we've got a loading bay here. That's my van.
It's a nice day.
Yeah, it's lovely here. Yeah, blue skies. Look at that. So a wagon pulled up with a little crane on the back, pulled up to the loading bay and lifted it to the double doors. Then we used like a pump truck, for pallets.
Yeah.
Headstock on the pump truck, and me and another guy used it like 4x4 underneath the tailstock, and just we kind of humped it in and into place. I've got it on. The hardest bit was getting it on there because it's a bit low. Most lathes are a bit low for me because I'm 6 foot. So I've got it on 5-inch pads just to raise it up, kind of. But yeah, I mean it's brilliant, rock solid and heavy. It does exactly what I need.
Yep, that's
and you can turn everything from really little stuff to really quite big stuff as well. You can
now,
turn...
did it come with accessories?
Yeah. So I've got at the back there's a freestanding tool rest.
Nice.
You see that? There's a couple of face plates, the original Wadkin Steady.
Wow.
And then through Instagram, there was a guy having the cranked banjo made. Let's see if I can get that. It's quite heavy, but well, it don't get used very often. This doesn't. I can see that. I can't get it out.
Yeah, we can see it.
And the idea of that is there's a gap bed. Can you see that?
Yep.
So when you take the gap bed out, you can spin really quite a big diameter there, but the normal banjo doesn't really reach across very well. So the cranked thing sits on the bed here and throws your tool rest across in front. That I had it, made afterwards, but it's brilliant. That was the only thing that was missing.
So you say you had it made?
Yeah, there was a guy. What's his name? He's Broadleaf. He's on Instagram anyway, and he's an old machinery fan, and he got one, and he was having some castings made, and he made 3 castings and shipped them over here. So me and a couple of the guys had them. It cost a fair bit, but it was an opportunity. I thought I got to take it. So
yeah, I have a Gap bed.
Yeah, but it's lovely lathe.
Beautiful.
Then what we got here? So this is my little press. You've probably seen my little press on Instagram.
Yeah.
Mate, I was fed up of gluing things like table legs together using 10 or 12 sash cramps. And I came up with this idea, and I'd sort of seen similar things, more industrial kind of veneer presses and stuff like that. And I had these things welded up, and this thing is just brilliant. It's really great. Perfect for you kind of 8-inch table legs and stuff like that, where you've got to glue up 3 layers of wood to be able to do it. So that gets dusted down from time to time. Sharpening station, just had the CBN wheel on there, and we've got disc sander, pillar drill, bit of sink area, shelves, screws and fixings and things. Then my main bench doubles as it's a mess, sorry about that. Doubles as an outfeed for my table saw.
Okay.
The table saw is there, and then this side table here has got a router underneath. So a router on the side. So that all makes the saw more versatile. And I can do a 8x4 sheet fairly easily on there if I use MDF or plywood or anything like that. Got a vise on the side there, but yeah, that's pretty much the workshop. It's not big, but it's perfect for me, really.
All it has to do is work.
That's it.
There's a guy here who builds big slab tables.
Yeah.
And Richard, his shop's not much bigger than yours.
Right.
And he builds massive tables.
Yeah.
So if you had one person for you to have a conversation with, who would it be?
What, ever in history, or like now, or?
Yeah, just both. Now or ever in history?
Wow. Oh. I can talk wood turning for days.
Yep.
Me a question.
Okay, so wood turning. So what wood turner would you want to have a conversation with?
Ooh. I guess I'd have liked to have known Ray Key and Bert Marsh better. Have you heard of those guys?
No.
Okay, so
okay, listen, Richard.
Yeah.
We got 50 seconds, right? We're gonna sign off and get back on.
Okay, no problem.
All right. So we'll see you on a little bit.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Waiting on Richard to come back in. Yes, sir.
Back on it.
All right. So the question is, if you could, who would you have a conversation with?
So, yeah, we're talking wood turning. I think I would have liked to have known Ray Key and Bert Marsh better. And if you don't know who they are, Ray Key probably started he's like the father of modern turning in the UK. So like your David Ellsworth, but
okay, hold it. Steve the wood turner just showed up. What's up?
Yeah.
We were just talking about you.
Only saying nice things, Steve. Don't worry. So Ray Key is like David Ellsworth is in America, well known, really sort of making turning big to the masses, if you like. And his best friend in turning was a guy called Bert Marsh, and they had a brilliant sort of rivalry and great friendship. And I always remember one of the first shows I ever went to. They were both demonstrating opposite each other, you know. But I think Ray Key was probably the better known one, so he had this sort of crowd around him, and I was watching him. And there's this old boy I'd never seen before, standing on the other side all on his own, and no one was watching him. I think he was possibly slightly less well known, but he was an awesome turner. The shapes he used to make were just so perfect. Apparently he was a lovely guy, and I'd have liked to have known them both better. I saw Ray Key demo, and I had a couple of conversations with him, but I didn't really know him that well. So I think to know both of those guys would have been good.
So did they pass away?
Yeah, Bert died probably 5-6 years ago, and Ray died last year, I think. So yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
That's why you got to do these things, man, because
yeah,
you never know. Tomorrow's not promised.
That's it.
All right. Okay, so in life, if anyone has any questions, they can tune in. So in life, who would you like to have a question? Who would you like to have a conversation with?
Really don't know. I really don't know.
All right.
I'm not big on, like, celebrity never interests me at all. So, like, famous people off the telly just don't really interest me at all. Do you know what I mean?
I do. But so there's no one that's interesting to you that you, outside of what term, that you'd like to get to know.
You know what? I'm rubbish at one-to-one conversation, especially with someone I don't know particularly well. So if I had a conversation with someone, I'd probably stand next to them for a bit and say hello, and then they'll get a bit like and shuffle off and not really say anything that I wanted to say. I'm much better in like a group. So let's have a group of people and let's have a beer.
So you know what this means, right? You spend too much time talking to your phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it doesn't talk back.
Yeah. That's it. I work on my own. There's just me and my radio in here. Yeah. No one to fall out with here.
What's the coolest project you've done in turning? Like, where's your work that you're most proud of?
There's probably a couple of areas for that. One is barley twists. I do quite a lot of, well, I say quite a lot. Compared to most people, I do quite a lot of barley twists, I guess. And it's not an area, it's not a big area of wood turning because it's not a big commercial thing. You can buy the guys with CNC machines can do a barley twist in a couple of minutes. But they are a little bit limited what they can do and what stuff. So there is a small market for old buildings and restoration work where match an existing twist. We're doing pretty much every year. I'll get at least one good job with some twist. The one for me, I've learned a lot about doing. I've met Stuart Mortimer. Have you heard of Stuart Mortimer?
Say it again now?
Have you heard of Stuart Mortimer?
No.
No, Stuart Mortimer. You have a look at Stuart Mortimer's work. He took what was an original sort of barley twist for furniture purposes, and he took it into a whole new level of art. He does hollow forms with spirals going around them, and when I say hollow forms, we're talking hollow forms. You know what I mean? Like really big. I've looked at the time with Stuart. I've sort of got the technique down that I can.
Richard, your audio seems to be.
Steve said blow out my mic. I don't know if that's me. There you go, try that. It is a bit something's a bit crackly. Is that any better?
Not so much. That's good there.
Okay, we'll go with that.
All right.
So, yeah, I've been lucky to spend a bit of time with Stuart, and I've sort of got the technique down that I can do it. I mean, they're still expensive because they're a hand carved product, basically, but it's something that I'm pretty good at doing, and I do a bit. So I've done some really good jobs with twists that I'm very proud of. And then the other area, I suppose, I write for the Wood Turning magazine. You've possibly know about that. And the series I've been writing for them has been what we call Editor Challenge. So the editor challenges me to make stuff, and he's trying to take me out of my comfort zone and trying to push it a little bit. And some of the projects I've made with that have been really interesting. Probably my favourite one was I made a little star, which I put into the bottom of a bowl.
Do you have it?
I think I've got that somewhere. Let me see if I can grab it.
Steve the Wood Turner, we need to get you on here.
So I made this little star, a walnut and maple star.
Very nice.
And I cut that and I put that into the bottom of a bowl. And that's one of my favourite things I've made, really. And it's on, not much of my work ends up at home, and that one is on the side, on my sideboard at home. So yeah, it's,
Look, I said, Steve, I need to get you on here. He goes, no, you don't. And then Phil was around Wood Turner. He goes, I agree.
yeah.
We need to get him on here. So what have you not done in wood turning that you'd like to do?
What have I not done? I don't know. With these articles, I feel like I've done. Yeah, it's forced me to cover a lot of areas that I wouldn't have gone into. And we have been struggling to come up with new ideas of things that I haven't done. So it is getting to that point where I've tried most. I'm sure there must be things I haven't done. There's got to be. There's always things I haven't done. I just can't name any of them right now.
No problem. Is there a machine that you think you're missing in your shop?
The machines I've got, I've generally sort of upgraded to, and I've been quite careful about what I've bought and the positions and what have you. If I had space, I would love some kind of four cutter that planes all four sides of your wood at the same time. So you can feed in a bit of wood and it comes out as a square spindle rather than spending hours pushing over the top and feeding it underneath.
You'd have to clear out your entire shop for one of those.
I mean, they do smaller ones, but I still ain't got space for it.
What wood do you like to turn most, and what wood do you want to turn with that you haven't gotten yet?
I think my favourite, I always come back to a nice piece of European oak, sort of a quarter sawn with a nice fleck in it. I mean, oak varies massively, and we generally, in this country, we generally get European or American white. And I think that you lot only send your rubbish over here because American white oak is generally crap.
I was going to ask you that. Which one you prefer?
Yeah, European any day. The American stuff, they seem to like over dry it. I don't know whether it reduces the weight for shipping or what, but it seems like they say that it's not been kilned, it's been killed. It's often brittle and dusty and just, it's horrible stuff. And the European is much nicer. It tends to have a slightly higher moisture content, but it's just far better quality. So European, I like walnut as well. Black walnut is pretty, so walnut and I'm quite happy to.
So What about imports?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is a market for the exotics, and I've turned a few, but I think with the sort of ecological drive that's going on these days, the exotics are not so
I don't have any.
called for, you know. So I tend to stick certainly to the sort of commercial stuff more than anything else. Keith says, ask him about. Did you see my post this morning? I've
Some of it.
occasionally a customer will come in. Have I frozen? I seem to have frozen on there.
Yes, you're frozen. Okay, you're good now. You're frozen.
Is it working all right? It seems to have frozen a bit.
Yeah, I can hear you, but your screen is frozen. And you say you upgraded that, right?
So, so Keith asked about wet wood. So occasionally I'll get a customer coming in who brings a log of a tree that's been cut down in their garden. Could we make a bowl out of it? Well, I suppose so. But you know, you're in cutting wood up. You know that actually to cut up a tree needs to be a tree to cut up to make anything good. And garden trees are like this, aren't they? So when the guy comes in, he brings it's a reasonable sized log, but when you say, well, to make a bowl, I've got to cut it down the middle, and that's as big as I can do. His idea of making a massive fruit bowl goes out the window. But, this morning I roughed it out. I bought this log in, I roughed it out, and I hate turning wet wood. You watch people on Instagram, and all they do is turn big wet wood bowls. And I'm talking about Scott Alexander mostly. If he sees this, he'll. He's turning massive wet wood bowls. I can't think of anything worse. I really can't. All he does is turn wet wood bowl. People see my work and say, "Oh, don't you get bored turning a load of spindles?" I'd rather turn a load of spindles than a massive wood bowls any day. It just doesn't really do anything. The mess, the fact that I've got all lovely cast iron machines.
It's a big mess.
It's no fun. That's no fun at all.
All right, so let's see if we got any more questions. No. No, I think we're good. Is there anything you want to share before we head out?
I think we've covered a fair bit of ground there, haven't we? I think that's all right. No, I'm pretty happy. If you're happy.
Yeah, and thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you coming on with us. Can you hear me?
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and listen, if you see Steve the Woodturner, you let him know he needs to come on here. All right, brother. Thank you. Are you there? Someone's asking a question.
Duplicating things. Do you see that? Yeah.
Talk about duplicating fingers? Okay, good. Someone wants to talk about your duplicating. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually something let's take it here. So
yeah,
I've got
those things are cool.
Actually. Yeah. Well, I mean, on Instagram, I've kind of popularized them, but actually, this is something I got from Gary Rance. He's been using them for years and years, and he said to me, you should be using these. These will speed you up no end. And a mutual friend had some made, and I got a set, and they are brilliant. They're just fantastic. So as you're turning, you set them, and it sort of runs on the work. And as you get to the right diameter, they just drop through. And it just means you don't need to be measuring. You measure your first one, and after that, the fingers do it all. And it really speeds the process.
Let me ask you, how long did it take you to get this after Gary asked you to get it?
Probably too long. Every time I saw him, he'd say, you know, you need some of these. They're brilliant, because he's been literally using them since the late 80s or early 90s, I think. And yeah, to be fair, at the time they weren't commercially available. You had to get someone to make them. So they weren't a commercially available product. But when someone was having them made, you know, I jumped on board. So there's now a guy who makes them, and I sell them mostly through Instagram, to be honest. And I've sold quite a few. They seem to be becoming quite popular now. But they are great. Anyone who makes any kind of multiples of anything, they're a really great thing to have.
Cool. Mary Anderson asks, have you ever been surprised with the projects?
Depends what I mean by surprised, really. Yeah, I mean, it always amazes me.
Choppy.
Oh, okay. Is that any better?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it amazes me that there's some of the stuff that people want me to make, really. I mean, the designers are the ones, they come to me and say, I've got a thing I'd like to make, can you do it? I say, well, yeah, I suppose so. And, you know, the designers are quite funny. Often they'll come to you and say, you know, try for 1 and 10, and then going forwards, we're probably going to be making hundreds of these things. And you look at it and think, well, my boy. But like I say, I'm happy to make anything pretty much. So I don't mind whether it's you or a production run or whatever. You know, it doesn't bother.
All right, Jeff Whitney says, what's up, Jeff? Do you think walking sticks are going to make a comeback into fashion?
Well, if they do, I'm quite happy to make them.
What martial content do you like in your blocks and turning?
So
do you prefer green versus kiln dried?
Well, we've had this discussion earlier. I hate green wood. Kiln is fine as long as it's been done well. Air dried is the best, really. It does seem to work. Air dried seems to work better. The bowl I roughed out this morning was something like 35%, which is still
really
got
wet.
And it's, you know, it's not very nice to get wet turning it.
Yeah, water flying off of it.
Exactly, yeah. So I want it somewhere closer to 10. I'd probably, yeah, sort of 12, something like that's fine. 15 might be a bit too high, but that sort of ballpark is going to be about right. If you buy the kiln dried stuff, can go down as low as about 7 sometimes, but I don't think you'd ever get anything that's just been in here that's been wet and then dry. You're never going to get it down to that kind of level. I think around 10, 12 is probably going to be what you can get to, I think, without any kind of kiln or special gear.
Have you made treads one wood?
I don't know what that means. Treads.
Neither do I.
No. Most unusual project. I had a guy who, he's a bit of a character, and he'd come in from time to time, and he'd have odd projects rumbling along, and he wanted to make a replica machine gun, like a Browning machine gun with a stand. And I turned him the barrel and some handles, because it's like a two-handed, like da-da-da-da kind of machine gun. Oh, really? You know, but again, the guy's got some money and he's prepared to pay me to do it. Yeah.
Did you make it?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah. Yeah. I'll make anything. I like English brown oak. Yeah, I've had a bit of brown oak. It's not something you get. It's not something you get from commercial timber merchants much, but I have used a bit of brown oak. It is lovely if you can get it.
Is it actually brown?
It's The brown is caused by beefsteak fungus, apparently it's called, and it turns it into like a chocolate, a light chocolate brown, not quite walnut colour, but like a milk chocolate kind of colour, and it works lovely. I don't know what it does. Without softening the wood, it seems to make it easier to work. So it works really nicely, and it looks amazing. Yeah, lovely stuff. If you can get brown out, get it, definitely.
All right, cool.
Something yeah. I'm not keen on making miniatures, and again, greenwood bowls. If I didn't make another greenwood bowl, I wouldn't be sad. But miniatures, I don't like miniatures. I've made a few bits for like dolls' houses and stuff like that, and it's fussy, slow work. You can't do it quick. No matter how many you make, it's so fussy and oh yeah. I'm not fond on miniatures either.
Keith, when you demo, is there a lathe you like or hate?
I like a Powermatic, the big Powermatic. They're always popular in America, so I usually go for one of them out there. There's a few of the clubs around here who got those. They're usually the jet version of the same lathe. They're the one I really don't like is the Nova. Do you get over there?
Yeah, we have Nova over here. We get it.
Yeah, I don't like those. They have a weird thread on the headstock. It's the only lathe that has it, and it's a bizarre thing. And the speed change is a button that you press. And I think if it's a lathe that's in your workshop, there are settings and you can set it to go to certain speeds. But when it's in a demo and they put the lathe away and then bring it back out again, to change the speed, you have to stand there with your finger on the button while it goes beep, 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 beep. And every time you stop the lathe, it goes beep, 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 beep. And you start the lathe again, beep, 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 beep. Yeah, I'm not fond of them really. I mean, they're fine, they work. A lot of people, the people who own them love them, but I wouldn't pay you for one.
Do you have a favorite book on turning?
There's a lot of books out there. The one I always recommend for beginners is by a guy called Keith Rowley. Again, someone I never knew. He died around the time I started turning, so I never met him. But he wrote a book called A Foundation Course. It's like the Bible of how you start turning, really. If anyone's starting turning and needs a book, that's the one to buy. But there's a lot of other ones. The other one I always recommend, and I reckon I ought to have a commission for I've sold so many of them, is a book called Classic Forms, which is just basically a book of drawings of columns and table legs and pillars and finials and stuff like that. And it's just a book of inspiration, really. And yeah, it's a really good one to have if you ever need inspiration, shape or a shape combination. Brilliant book, Classic Forms it's called, by Stuart Dyer.
And Stephen Turner said, that's your dodgy eyes. He's probably making fun of you.
Oh, not being able to see minutes. Yeah, probably. What about the Lagoon? Oh, Laguna, I don't know. The Laguna lathes, they have started to come over here, but it's not something I've used. I know people who've got them and they love them, so I don't know firsthand, but I think they are good lathes from what people say.
All right, so I think if you're good, we're good. I think we're gonna give you back to your day. Again, I really appreciate you coming on.
Nearly. It's 4:30 in the afternoon here, so it's nearly done. I'll probably head home now.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. Good to speak to you.
Say it again.
Take care. Good to speak to you. Take care.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
All right. Take
Have
care.
a good one.
Bye.